The Buddha, the world-honored one, revered by humanity, is praised as the supreme medicine king, meaning the king of all physicians, unsurpassed by anyone. But why is the Buddha called this, when he never opened a clinic, nor ever held ordinary medicinal herbs to treat physical illnesses? The answer is profound, because the Buddha not only cures diseases of the body, but also reveals the miraculous remedy that eradicates suffering and affliction at their root. The diseases of the mind, which are the source of all suffering in the cycle of birth and death, try to reflect on a skilled healer in the world. That person can save a critically ill patient, extending their life by 10 or 20 years, which is already very precious and commendable. However, no matter how skilled the doctor is, they cannot make a person escape the law of impermanence. Ultimately, everyone must grow old, become sick, and die. In contrast, the Buddha only teaches the method of practice, helping sentient beings not only to heal temporary illnesses, but also to escape birth and death, living a life of peace and liberation, forever free from the influence of impermanence. That is a magnificent thing that only a fully enlightened being can accomplish, truly worthy of being called the Supreme Healer King. If we are Buddhist practitioners, surely everyone knows that this body is temporary and impermanent. But the Buddha did not stop at pointing out this truth. He taught that if one practices skillfully, knowing how to rely on this body and turn towards liberation, one can transcend the cycle of birth and death and attain endless life. Therefore, the Buddha's Dharma is a miraculous medicine that completely cures the root diseases of the mind. Once healed, we are no longer influenced by impermanence, no longer afraid of birth and death, and remain peaceful and free in life. The Buddha is the one who has attained enlightenment. We are the Buddhas to be. When our practice reaches perfection and we achieve the fruit of the path, we will be equal to the Buddhas, with no one superior to another, because enlightenment is absolute perfection. This is the meaning of the term supreme. No one is greater, and no one equals those who have fully attained the fruit of the path. Therefore, the praise, Supreme Medicine King, is not an exaggeration, but an evident truth for those who understand the Dharma. But what is the illness that the Buddha cures? It is not an ordinary physical illness, but a mental illness. For the 84,000 afflictions of sentient beings, the Buddha has 84,000 methods of treatment. Each of us carries mental illness. Greed, anger, ignorance, and evil thoughts, whenever they arise, are signs of illness. And the Buddha, with boundless compassion, has clearly taught how to cure each type of illness. However, there is a sad reality that, despite practicing for a long time, many Buddhists still do not know what illness they have, let alone what medicine to use to treat it. Some people just chant sutras and recite Buddha's name without understanding the deeper meaning or knowing how to apply the Dharma in their lives. As a result, their afflictions remain unchanged, their illnesses persist, and then they complain that the Buddha's teachings are ineffective. Just like a patient who goes to see a doctor, receives a prescription but refuses to take the medicine, only holding it and reading it over and over, the illness will never heal. There are also those who only pray for the doctor's blessing to be cured, but refuse to take the medicine. How can the illness be cured? We Buddhists are the same. We keep praying for the Buddha's protection and peace, but refuse to practice and take the medicine of the Dharma. How can suffering and afflictions end? The Buddha once taught that he does not have the power to grant blessings or inflict calamities on anyone. Cause and effect are created and experienced by ourselves. The Buddha only points the way and prescribes the remedy. Taking the medicine and curing the illness is the responsibility of each individual. If one does not know what illness they have or which method to use for treatment, then even practicing throughout their lifetime will hardly yield results. Among us, who dares to claim that they no longer have the diseases of greed, anger, and ignorance? If every day there are still troubles, still anger and resentment, still delusions, it means the disease is still there. The Buddha once compared greed, anger, and ignorance to 3 venomous snakes locked together in a house. How can the person inside that house sleep peacefully? Only by driving those 3 snakes out can there be peace and tranquility. So how to cure the disease of greed? The Buddha taught that greed has many types: greed for wealth, greed for beauty, greed for fame, greed for food, and greed for sleep. Each type of greed has its own remedy. For greed for wealth, use generosity as the cure. When still attached to money, practice letting go and helping the poor and needy. For greed for beauty, contemplate impurity. Clearly see that this body, like others, is impure, dirty, just a bag of skin filled with unclean things. For greed for fame, contemplate impermanence and suffering. Status and fame are temporary. They come and go. The more you chase, the more suffering you have. For greed for food, contemplate that food is also dirty. When it enters the body, it is delicious, but when it leaves, everyone is disgusted. For greed for sleep, contemplate impermanence, reminding yourself of the shortness of life, diligently practicing so as not to waste time in laziness. When the disease of greed has been treated, continue to treat the disease of anger. Anger is a fire that burns the heart and is the cause of countless bad karma. The Buddha teaches using patience and compassion to treat anger. When offended, remind yourself, enduring is wise, speaking out is foolish, and use compassion to observe the object that makes you angry, seeing them as a sick person, a mad person, more pitiable than anger-worthy. What about the disease of delusion? Delusion is the root of all suffering, causing us to mistake the false for the real, to cling to the self, to the body, to circumstances, giving rise to all kinds of illusions and pain. The Buddha taught using wisdom to cure delusion, studying and practicing prajna, contemplating that the 5 aggregates are all empty, clearly seeing that this body is merely a temporary combination, not real, no longer clinging to the self, thereby eliminating all delusions and attaining peace and liberation. Buddhism is like precious medicine, but if you only chant sutras and read scriptures without practicing or taking the medicine, the illness will never heal and suffering will never end. Practitioners must know how to contemplate, recognize their own ailments, and use the correct methods to treat them. Only then can they hope to be free from suffering and attain peace and freedom. Someone asked if there is a medicine that can cure all diseases. The compassionate Buddha taught that for those practicing Pure Land Buddhism, the phrase Namo Amitabha Buddha serves as a remedy for all ailments. When afflictions arise, simply wholeheartedly recite the Buddha's name, and the mind will gradually become calm, with distracting thoughts subsiding. For those practicing Zen, letting go is the remedy, Whenever a thought arises, let it go without pursuing it, and over time the mind will be tamed and peaceful. But whether it is a special remedy or a cure-all medicine, the essential thing is to practice and take the medicine. Simply chanting sutras, reciting mantras, or praying alone cannot cure the illness or eliminate afflictions. The Buddha is the supreme physician who compassionately gave us precious medicines. The rest is up to each person to take the medicine themselves, to practice diligently, to courageously face their own illness, and to persist in applying the Dharma medicine that the Buddha has taught. Only then can we truly be children of the Buddha, truly attain peace and genuine freedom, and be worthy of following the Supreme Medicine King, walking the path of enlightenment and liberation.